welcome back to another video. So it is the most wonderful time of the year, and I am not talking about Christmas, Hanukkah, or whatever the hell you celebrate. I am talking about the World Juniors tournament, the 2025 World Juniors being played in Ottawa. It starts in 12 days at this point, gets underway right after Christmas. So I thought it'd be a fun idea. We basically know what the rosters are going to look like. We know which stars are going to go for their respective team. So I thought we'd go through the top 10 players at the 2025 World Juniors. There is a lot of high-end players that will be representing different countries. I actually have players from 5 different countries on this list. I think the talent is decently spread out. In terms of the top talent, I think Canada is definitely the favorite as of right now, even though they cut guys like Zane Perek, Beckett Seneca, Andrew Crystal. Still think Canada's a favorite. Then it's like US, Sweden, Finland maybe has an outside chance. But we're just looking at the top 10 guys, and this is maybe going to give you a little bit of a look at what my top 50 updated prospects are going to look like. I'm starting that next Monday. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. And at number 10, I got Zeev Boyum. When looking at him, historic freshman year, 50 points in 42 games. This year, just doing more of the same as 20 points in 17 games. The thing with Boyum, the way I describe him is just he's so elusive. He's so elusive at the blue line, similarly to another American defenseman like Elaine Hudson, and especially at the junior NCAA's level, he can really get away with being so elusive, and Lane Hudson has translated to the NHL. But especially with Boyum, he is just a beast at the blue line in terms of creating offense, creating shooting lanes. Last year, he played in tournament, ended up winning gold. He had 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points in 7 games. Without a doubt, is going to be the USA's number 1 defenseman this season. Honestly, he's the number 1. They don't have a ton of offensive defensemen, at least intimidating offensive defensemen this season. So he's going to be relied on in a massive way if the United States wants to repeat. Next up, my boy Konsta Helenius. This guy was one of my favorite prospects in the 2024 draft. Ended up going like 14th overall. I thought that was an absolute steal for the Buffalo Sabres. When looking at this kid last year in the Finnish league against grown men, 36 points in 51 games. He decides, I'm coming over to North America. I'm going to play in the AHL. Start off a little bit slow, but now has 14 points in 25 games at the AHL level, playing really good hockey, especially of late. And when looking at him last year, didn't really play that good in his draft year in the World Juniors for Finland. Only had 2 points in 7 games. People tried to throw him way down the charts. It's obviously an overreaction, but I think he's really going to bring it. I think he has a lot to prove in this year's tournament, and especially when looking at a guy like Konsta Helenius, when you think about him, he really has no flaws in his game. Maybe he doesn't have any traits that he can do at a high level, but he is just an absolute well-rounded beast, one of the highest IQ players in this entire draft, extremely fast, a very underrated shot in my opinion, and I think he has potential to possibly carry Team Finland. Outside of him, there's not a ton of Finnish high-end talent outside of him and maybe Emil Hemming and Aaron Kiviharju if he really steps up in a big way. He's going to have to put up monster numbers if Finland even wants to win any of the games against the other big 3 countries, but I think he's perfectly capable of that, and as a result, he checks in at number 9. I love me some Konsta Helenius. Next up, Bradley Nadeau, late first-round pick in the 2023 draft. He absolutely killed it last year in the NCAAs with Maine, with playing with his brother, funny enough, his older brother. He had 46 points in 37 games, then signs with Carolina Hurricanes, appeared in 1 NHL game, and this year he's been very productive, similarly to Helenius in the AHL. 13 points in 21 games. Right now, I think that this guy's trending to be a very good middle 6 forward for Carolina, but in the meantime, on Team Canada this year, he's going to be relied on to probably be a top line forward, definitely within that top 6, probably on the power play, and be a serious goal scoring threat for Team Canada. I think that he's more than capable of it. He's an absolute stud. Next up, Canada's number 1 defenseman at number 7, Sam Dickinson. Now, we always thought last year in the draft process, Sam Dickinson was a very good 2-way prospect. His offensive game has taken it to another level. He's definitely solidified himself as the number 1 defenseman, at least with the London Knights, and passed a guy like Oliver Bonk, who's also very good and is also on Team Canada. But he has 46 points in 26 games right now. He has 15 goals compared to 18 goals last year in 68 games. His goal scoring and shot has come a long way. And yeah, this guy at 6'2", 6'3" is a great skater. And now the fact that he's putting the playmaking, putting the overall advancement of his hands and overall playmaking, it is very impressive to see, especially without a guy like Zane Perek potentially on the team. He got cut, unfortunately. He's going to have to play a massive role as that number 1, not only just the overall number 1, especially offensively without a guy like Zane Perek. The Canadian blue line does have some offense, but he's going to have to carry a decent amount. Number 6, another Canadian. We got Callum Ritchie, a 2023 first round pick by the Colorado Avalanche. Solid in his draft year. I liked him a decent amount, but I gave him a grade about where he went. I believe he was 24th overall or 25th. He had 59 points in 59 games. Last season takes a big jump, 80 points in 50 games. One of the best players in the OHL. And this year he's clicking at almost 2 points per game with 34 points in 18 games. Beckett Seneca is also playing great, but Callum Ritchie is still the best player on the Oshawa Generals right now. Rightfully so, because he's a year older, but he's a great player, 6'2", high IQ, plays both sides of the ice, and he might be relied on to be Canada's number one center at this tournament. And I think that he's honestly up to the challenge, considering how well this guy has progressed. And the Colorado Avalanche have a really good prospect in Callum Ritchie. Into the top 5. At number 5, I got Gavin McKenna. This guy has been a monster this season in the CHL. I believe he's leading the entire CHL in points. In the WHL, he's definitely first in points, although Andrew Crystal has a higher point per game, ended up not making the team. But yeah, 60 points in 30 games. In Medicine Hat doesn't even have Caden Lindstrom. He has absolutely carried this Medicine Hat team as of right now offensively at only 16 years old. And when you look at his other previous international history at the U18 tournament, everybody, and I bring it up when I talk about James Hagan setting the all-time points record in that tournament with 22. Guess what Gavin McKenna had? He had 10 goals, 10 assists for 20 points, and Canada ended up winning the gold medal. He is just a brilliant skater, and his playmaking and IQ is well ahead of his age. Not ready to say the G word, but he is a very, very special prospect. Again, 2 points per game at 16 years old in the WHL. He's awesome. Hopefully he heads to college hockey next year and really gets tested instead of putting up 2.5 points per game in the WHL. That's going to do nothing for your development. Go to Michigan, go to Minnesota, go to Denver, go to one of the Boston schools, and go play in college hockey. People are going to get pissed about that. Number 4, we got Gabriel Perreault. And looking at Perreault, he was awesome last year in the college level, still playing very good this year, but he had 60 points in 36 games last year at the collegiate level. This year, still a very productive 23-16, but that Boston College team was one of the best of all time last year. They're still very good. Again, they also have James Hagans. But yeah, he is the name of the game with him is playmaking. Not the best skater, but this guy is just so smart, such an amazing passer, probably the best passer overall in this entire tournament. Actually, I'd probably say without a doubt. But when looking at him last year in the tournament, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points, 7 games, gold medal. He's experienced. He's played a lot of big games, especially at Boston College. Not afraid of the moment. New York Rangers prospect, unfortunately, but there's no doubt that Gabriel Perreault is definitely a top 6 player in this tournament. Number 3, I'm going to go with Dalibor Dvorsky of Slovakia. When looking at him last year in the OHL playing alongside Quinn Musty, 43 goals, 45 assists, 88 points in 52 games. A monster season. Him and Musty were one of the best duos in the entire CHL. Comes over to the AHL. You're questioning how he's going to translate to the more so pro style. Well, he was playing pro in whatever Sweden, but how is he going to translate to North American pro, especially away from a guy like Quinn Musty? He has 10 goals, 8 assists, 18 points in 22 games right now in the AHL. That is very, very impressive. So the fact that he's dominating grown men like he is right now, he was always known as a very solid both ways of the ice kind of player. I had him as my number 9 or number 10 prospect in the 2023 draft. Ended up going 10th overall. The Blues got a really good one, and going from the AHL to now playing 17 to 19-year-olds in this tournament, he should definitely feast. It's going to be tough on a Slovakia team. He's going to get a lot of defensive pressure on him, but I think he'll rise to the occasion, and maybe Slovakia pulls off an upset because Dvorsky absolutely takes over a game. At number 2, we have the reigning defenseman of the tournament in Axel Sandin Pellikka. You can make a strong argument for number 1. I think number 1 and number 2 definitely interchangeable. 22 points in 25 SHL games. Last year was around a point per game. Had 6 points in 7 games. Was amazing last year for Sweden. Him and Lekkerimäki were out of their minds. Ended up resulting in them losing to the United States in the final, but still making the final nonetheless. Axel Sandin Pellikka, I talked about him actually yesterday in the video about the Detroit Red Wings, but yeah, just such a dynamic skater, has one of the best shots on a young defenseman, especially as a guy that's kind of a smaller guy. His shot is so pinpoint accurate. If you leave him at the blue line with space to operate, he will step into a shot and absolutely rip one home. And with Sweden, they have a solid team this year, but they don't have like a Lekkerimäki or Östlund, so he's really going to have to elevate his game even more if Sweden wants to go deep. And again, last year literally won defenseman of the tournament, so how much more does he have to elevate? I think he can become like the first back-to-back defenseman of the tournament in like 3 decades or something like that. Insane. It's definitely possible. He's an absolute gamer. Detroit Red Wings got a really good one. But at number 1, maybe I'm a bit biased, but I'm going to go with Ryan Leonard. I think he's the best overall two-way best two-way player in the not, I was about to say in the NHL in the tournament. When looking at him last year at Boston College, 31 goals, 29 assists, 60 points in 41 games. This year, already 12 goals in 16 games at Boston College. Not quite the assist numbers as prior years, but has been a very, very good goal scorer throughout his entire career. He's just such, again, a two-way menace to society. His motor and his physicality, despite only being like 6 foot, 180, 185 pounds, this guy just plays smash mouth hockey. I absolutely love to watch him play. Maybe that's also why he's number one. But yeah, last year, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points in 7 games to win gold. This year, going to be relied on to be the United States best forward. Him, Higgins, and Perreault, I think, are going to be really good in this tournament, considering you value something like chemistry. Those guys have been playing together all season, and I think Ryan Leonard is the best player among those. And the best player, he's arguably, so I think at this point, he's arguably one of the best prospects. Ivan Demidov's probably been number one prospect, but he has a shot for number 2 or number 3 in the entire NHL. He's an absolute gamer, and as a result, I have him as the best player in this tournament. Let's go through it one more time. Zeev Boyum, Constant Helenius, Bradley Nadeau, Sam Dickinson, Callum Ritchie, Gavin McKenna, Gabe Perreault, Dalibor Dvorsky, Axel Sandin, Palika, and Ryan Leonard. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Let me bring up some honorable mentions right now. When talking about honorable mentions, Porter Martone's been amazing at the CHL level. Schaefer, obviously. Hagens, the 2025 guys. You could all make arguments that they should be on this. Tom Willander for Sweden should be a really good defenseman. Trying to think anybody else. Jet Luchenko played some NHL games to start this season. But yeah, I'm pretty confident in my top 10. I didn't include goalies on this. You could argue like Trey Augustine should be on this. He's killing it right now at Michigan State. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? Who would you yank off? And who would you put on? I'll be seeing the next one.